Okay, alright.
Hello and welcome back to the Make Lemonade podcast, the show for creators by creators, where we hope to inspire you to earn money from your own lemonade stand. I'm on your host, James, and I'm back here with JR Farr, co-founder of Lemon Squeezy. And today we're joined by our first guest of the series, Aaron Francis, who is currently an educator at Planet Scale, but you would have seen him all around the internet doing courses, YouTube videos, podcasts, and more. In this episode, we discuss the creation and launch of screencasting.com, a course Aaron made teaching you how to make better screencasts. We go into detail on how he structured the course, marketing, pricing, and what Aaron plans to do with it in the future. Oh, and we discuss JR and Aaron's priciest domains. Let's get into it.
Okay, alright.
Aaron, so good to see you. You look stunning on your setup here. What's in the background?
The background is a lot of stuff. The background is a collection of trinkets and knickknacks from years. Of course, I've got a picture of the kids. I got a little, MySQL plaque. I got an old iPhone. I got a drawing my wife did. I got all kinds of stuff back there. It's the studio setup.
How intentional is all the stuff you put in the background?
Extremely intentional. Extremely thoughtful and systematic. Yeah, I had to move a bunch of stuff around because this plant used to be right by my head in the background and it looked a little weird. And so I've done as much as I can to frame it quite nicely and have the stuff, lined up where it should be.
How's Dallas right now, Aaron? How's Dallas treating you? Have you always lived there?
Yeah, I have. So I grew up on the south side of Dallas in a suburb and then went to Texas A&M and then came back. So I've been in Texas the whole time. It's Dallas. I mean, we don't super love it here, but we just have so much family and so many true deep friendships here that it is good enough for us to stay here. We have both sets of my parents and my wife's parents and some of her sisters, and it's just with this many kids and this much family.
Speaking of family, I heard on your Indie Bites episode that you have twins, and you're going to have another set of twins. I also have twins, so I know.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How old?
When my son was 18 months, I had twins, so I had 3 kids. Pretty much felt like all the same age.
We're doing basically the same. We have 2.5-year-old twins, and this week or next week we're having twins again.
Holy shit.
Get the button ready, James. Yeah.
Wow.
How old are yours and what genders?
So they're twin girls and they're 14.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. I had kids young.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, ours are 2.5 and they're boy girl, and the next set is also boy girl.
Awesome.
Not
Congrats.
wild.
I mean, it's probably daunting and scary, but at the same time, it's amazing. So
yeah, I'm of course scared, but I'm also looking forward to when they're a little bit older and just what a wild family unit that's going to be. 4 kids so close together. Everyone has a twin. Everyone has an opposite gender sibling. It's same gender sibling. Everyone has everything. It's this is the wildest thing I've ever heard of.
It really is.
How does having kids as a founder or someone who dabbles in side projects affect both of you in your various lives?
It changes literally everything. I mean, it's all a function of time, in my opinion. There are things I am still willing to sacrifice on, and that would be I don't watch a lot of TV or play a lot of video games. But when it's between 5:30 and 6 p.m. here, I leave my office and I go out because it's kid dinner, it's kid bedtime, it's kid bath time, it's dad throws them on the bed and they giggle. It's I'm just not gonna miss that, and so my time is a lot more precious and a lot more focused, and I'm not willing to sacrifice time that belongs to other people, primarily my kids.
I think the underlying thing there, I heard you say this too, I don't watch football, but I think the big thing that kids do, sometimes people look at it as a negative, but for me, it was such a motivator. There's a fire lit under you, right? You're kind of
Yes.
I got, like you just said, the time that I do have when I do work, I have to be focused because if I'm, then I'm just wasting it spending time with my kids. So I don't know. I actually think it's been a positive for me. As hard as it's been, it's extremely motivating. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think, James, you had a question at some point about burnout, which we can talk about later. And JR is absolutely correct that having kids, and in our household situation, I'm the primary breadwinner. My wife works harder than I do, but I'm the primary breadwinner. And boy, you better believe I am super focused on making sure that we can have food on the table. And like, yeah, that lights a fire under me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There was a question on JR's thread which is related. How do you find time to do your hair so nice with all of those with all of those twins, Aaron?
I didn't see that one. Oh,
yeah,
that was one. I did see
that
that
was
one.
Elwin Ransom, a dear friend on Twitter. You know, you just got to have a system and a hair dryer. I use my wife's hair dryer, and it takes me 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm back in front of the camera.
So you're willing to sacrifice some things, but your hair routine is not one of them.
You know, it's part of the brand. If you're going to go on camera, you got to look camera ready.
So you were 22 when you had kids, JR? Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I had 3 kids by the time I was 25.
Oh my goodness.
But
And what were you doing then?
Well, that's okay. So I had the 3 kids. We brought the kids home, the twins home from the hospital. I was at an ad agency, and I quit my job and started Mojo.
That is a bold move.
That was ballsy, and it was
Yeah.
That was in 2009. So it was right after 2008, and if, not a lot of people maybe know, it was like the housing crisis. It was a mess in the economy.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to now, but
To what you've both said about like the kids lighting a fire under you, I often think that because I don't have that, there's often none of that fire, and that fire has to be self-generated in order for me to reach my goals. I'm only doing it for me, and that's kind of hard sometimes. I know my sister, who's just become a mum a few years ago, her like sole focus now is providing for the kid, and that has she's turned into a completely different person. And I don't kind of know how to replicate that as someone who doesn't have kids.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's different. I think before I had kids, I was primarily focused on like tinkering and kind of, exploring hobbies, and didn't really matter how much time I spent on, let's say, a side project. And post kids, I'm like, oh, this has got to work. I'm going to be ruthless about cutting things and, contracting scope and shipping things, because I'm not, 22 without kids, or, sorry, JR, you had them at 22. I'm not 22 without kids. I don't have infinite time. So it's like, I'm going to sit down and work on this thing. And I think that has cured me, or at least alleviated a little bit of some of my perfectionist tendencies, where I have now decided that like getting the thing out the door is almost the entire game. That's it. Of course, I still I have a personal, intrinsic desire to do things well, but if it doesn't get out the door, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
it's funny you say that too, because the time thing, when you don't have kids, and obviously I didn't, but I look at people that are like, oh, I just don't have enough time in the day to go to the gym and get my work done and then do a side project and go to it's like, wait till you have kids. You have no time. So you realize how much time you wasted, after you have kids too.
Yeah. And I have 2 kids right now, and I'm sure people with 4 kids are looking at me and being like, wait till you have 4 kids. And people with 8 kids are like, wait till you have 8 kids. And it's just like, yeah, it's just like, it turns out life is hard for everyone, and you just have to
it's all relative.
I'm just gonna freaking do the thing and make my life what I want it to become, regardless of if I have 2, 4, 8, or 16 kids.
Exactly.
So Aaron, let's get into a little bit about you. And if those haven't heard sort of your background, we'll link to podcasts that can talk more about your background. But I guess briefly tell us about your story of being an accountant, a software developer, to now what you're doing now.
Yeah, I'll make it as short as possible. I graduated from college with a master's in accounting, specifically in tax, and then I got my CPA license. So I was a professional accountant. I worked at Ernst & Young for 1 year, and I thought, boy, this sucks. I got to get out of here. And I loved the academic side of accounting, and then I got into the real world, and I was like, we just put numbers on forms. this is lame. And I had been, I was one of those kids that grew up like playing with htmlgoodies.com and like just tinkering with the computer and reading books and stuff. And so I just went back and was like, I'm gonna be a developer. And so I bailed on accounting after a year, and then have been a developer ever since then, all the way up to now where I work. I have a full-time job. We're here to talk about, making side projects and all that. I still have a full-time job, and I work as a developer educator now, which is a really nice like intersection of the things that I care about, primarily teaching. I love to teach. I find a lot of joy in that. And I work at a company called PlanetScale, which is a MySQL platform company. And so my role there has turned into, I was hired as just like developer educator. It has turned into basically teach people about MySQL on video. So my medium is video, and it's great. I love it. I have so much fun with it. I love teaching, and I love, being on video and helping people.
What a crazy background. I love it's accounting, but a tax. So instantly what I think about is just the depths of your mind, like where you can go, like from teaching to numbers to, and then you have an eye for design too, like the stuff that you do, like screencasting looks really good. And, the way you brought up, like, I have a job, I actually think it's great. I think you're probably exposed to a lot of other things that you might not be exposed to when you're like an indie hacker or a creator, right? You get to, I don't know, there's something that's good about that too. And so sounds like you found your niche with teaching. Have you ever done any teaching the same way you do with MySQL, but with accounting? Have you ever done anything like that?
I have.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've got a video course that teaches, prepare for the niche of all niches. So I went to a university called Texas A&M University here in Texas. Yeah. I took a class called Accounting 229, which is Introduction to Financial Accounting. Loved it. Thought it was the best class in the world. It was the class that made me an accounting major. I wasn't originally one. I ended up tutoring that course in person for, the 3 or 4 years that I had remaining after I took the course. And then after I graduated many years later, I was like, that was a fun course. I'm really good at teaching that. So I recorded maybe 100 videos going through the syllabus and the curriculum and the practice problems and everything. And you can still find it at acct229.com. And it teaches financial accounting to sophomores at Texas A&M. And I just recently, this like 6 months ago, took the paywall down because I haven't fixed it yet. But it's made over $100,000 just selling. I believe it. Just selling videos to college students.
Yes, and I think you could go. I mean, this is gonna. I was on TikTok the other day, and I was like, the reason why I'm asking is because I saw someone that was just like in Excel, just dominating Excel, and he was like an accountant. My mind was blown. I was like, I wish I had this skill. So I'm bringing all this up because I'm genuinely envious that you have that background and you can fall on that when you need, because that is like that takes a very unique mind to be able to, just get behind that.
JR, if you were going to go from accounting to learning software development, what route would you go down? What medium would you choose to learn about it?
I mean, YouTube. I just go to YouTube and learn, I guess.
Aaron, how did you learn software development, or where did you get your start in it?
Back when I got my start, I was, 10, 11, 12. So this was like late 90s, early 2000s. And I bought books. I bought like, HTML5 and ASP.NET Unleashed and like PHP 4. And I still feel pretty strongly that when I encounter a new subject area, reading a book or reading the documentation is the best way to establish like a landscape. And then beyond that, I'll dive in to details and specifics through blog posts or YouTube videos or something like that. But that's how I got my start, was like, I just bought ASP.NET Unleashed at Barnes and Noble.
See, because that's the thing. You're very mechanical, and that's why I'm so envious, because I'm more visual. So that's why I was like YouTube, because I would just watch, and I learned better that way. Where you have the ability to digest, and I don't know. I'm so jealous of that because I can't learn like that. But that's amazing.
Yeah, Aaron completely changed my perspective on using books to learn things, because I was the same as you, JR, immediately to YouTube, Reddit, wherever. And like, I'm learning bike maintenance at the moment, and I was watching YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video, and I couldn't find the specific thing. And sometimes I just wanted a diagram, and I was trying to Google for a specific diagram. I bought a book. And it had everything I could need. And I started flicking through it. And now I had a deeper understanding of each individual thing because someone's thought through this book to do it. And so I hadn't considered how useful books can be in terms of learning something or getting like a base understanding of something that's really complex.
Yeah, and I still do it. Like nothing has changed. These are all of my programming books, all of them recent. Like I don't keep 12-year-old books on the shelves. Those are all MySQL books from the past 2 or 3 years. Still, that's exactly how I do it. And I think to me that was like, I produced this huge course for Planet Scale called MySQL for Developers. And I think one of the encouragements to me producing that course was I bought all of these books and read them. And then I actually have, the documentation sitting right here on my desk so I can reference it. And the encouragement to me was, oh, like you can learn enough to teach other people without intrinsically knowing it based on 20 years of experience. And that was nice to me to be like, wait a second, I can try really, really hard. I can learn something new, and I can package it up with my own spin and flavor, and it will be valuable to other people. Because I think I had thought at some point, like, the only people that can teach are the people that like have been gifted the knowledge from God and or 20 years of experience, and they just happen to like, all right, I can teach this one thing. And I realized, oh no, you can just study. You can study and teach. That totally works.
Which, I mean, honestly, I really want to talk about screencasting because I want to hear about, obviously the domain's amazing, the content's amazing, but I don't want to brush over anything. I want to actually get into like your mind of like the way you structured the chapters and the content and like how you thought about doing that, because it's extremely interesting, and maybe this is self-serving, but like I don't know where my mind would go if I had to write a book. And so I'm actually curious to learn someone that's meticulous like you and mechanical, and I think it'd be very like useful to learn about.
No, absolutely. I mean, we kind of set up and I'll put in the intro a bit about Aaron, but we know he works for Planet Scale at the moment. He's done this course, MySQL for Developers, and screencasting.com is the thing that you've launched, I guess, most recently. Talk to us about how it came about. You know how to do great screencasts, you know how to make courses. Why is this the thing you decided to put some effort into?
Yeah, I think it's interesting how this came about because, like we were talking about a little while ago, I don't spend too much time tinkering anymore. I really have to like cut scope because of my life setup. And this is like a direct result of that. I produced this course for Planet Scale, put it out, and everyone was like, wow, this content is really great. Side note, how did you do all these screencasts? Like, hey, can you show me your setup? I would love to learn. And they did the like, shut up and take my money, teach me how to do this. And that was the first big moment, I guess, in my life where people told me exactly what they wanted from me. And I was very confident that they would, in fact, pay me for it.
I love that.
And so that was like, hang on, it's finally happening. And so I decided, like, this is a good thing for me to work on. And kind of like the way that I did the curriculum, because like you've got this thing that you want to teach, you decide you're going to teach screencasting. What next? Like, what do you do now?
Exactly.
And so I'm not like a formal instructional designer. And so my method of working is very much like a humble workman. Like I put on my overalls and I go to work. And so the way that I do it and the way that I've done it with every course is, in the initial phase, I'm like researching and gathering. Either that's reading books for the MySQL course or for the ScreenFlow course. It's like, or the screencast course. It's like, I am teaching out of experience on this one. And so, whatever that research phase is, I move on to like literally open a text document and write down everything that you think should go in the course. Don't worry about order. Don't worry about structure. Don't worry about if it should actually go in the course. Just write down, yeah, maybe maybe that one should go in the course, and just blow through it all in a single. Don't open Notion. If you open Notion, you've already lost the battle.
Like keep it raw so you don't overthink. Like it allows you to just freely just basically dump everything on the table. Right.
Yes, because people get wrapped around the axle of like, what is my, learning management system? What is my, my Trello board gonna look like? And it's like, I don't know. You're losing already.
Which is big for you because you've said it. You're such a perfectionist. So, you're like the person at the top to say this, right? To learn from, because if anyone would struggle with it, would be you. But
yeah, for sure. Like, I love a system. I want to like move a card to a different lane and have 6 automations kick off. I want that, like, with all of my heart. That's what I want. But it's a trap. It's a super trap at the beginning to do that. And this frankly relates back to like reading books or documentation to get a landscape. All you're trying to do when you open the text document is put down the landscape of, this is everything that I think exists. That's step one. And, whether you're pulling that from experience or the books you read, it doesn't matter. Write it all down. And then the fun part is you start looking over this document of like this, 100 lines with like ideas or half ideas or little turns of phrase or whatever. And you just kind of start moving them around such that related things go together. You're like, hey, these 2 ideas are kind of, you know what? They're super related. I'm going to move those up a line, move those down a line. And as you do that, you're starting to like, you move the whole, it's like a, sorting algorithm. You're just going over it over and over and over until everything kind of is like, yeah, that all flows together. And what you see in most cases is like a very rational linear structure comes out of that. Cause you're like, all right, these 8 things are about editing. How am I going to edit a video if I haven't recorded a video? All right, well, I'll move those guys down. I'll move the recording section up. How am I going to record a video if we haven't talked about cameras and lights? Oh, okay, well, I'll move that guy up. How are you going to record a video if you don't know what you're teaching? So let's put the curriculum design at the top. And you look at it when you're done and you're like, holy crap. There's my linear flow. There's all of the topics, and you can decide, what 3, 2, 1 topics go in a video. That's fine. That's just packaging. But there's your entire curriculum set up for you, basically with just like writing a bunch of stuff down and moving lines up and down. That's it.
It's obviously all this is broken down in the course, I assume.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm reading it now. You talk about ideal video length and do you use a script? And I didn't realize the depth of this. And I'm like, now I'm very, very intrigued. But how long, I mean, start to finish, how long did this take?
So, I think it's like, I want to say 4 hours of edited content. So, of course, many, many, many multiples of that. I recorded the entire course, and then I realized I'd made a fundamental mistake in my positioning. And I got to the point where it was like, the course is functionally done, and I feel hesitant or even icky to like go out there and promote it. And I investigated that, and I was like, you put all this work into it. Why do you feel like, I don't want to launch the thing. I don't want to do it. And I dove into that and realized it's because that you could have done a better job and you made a fundamental error. And my fundamental error was positioning it strictly to developers. And I think having a tight scope is good and can help marketing. But with something like this, fundamentally, I should have been positioning towards people with any sort of technical expertise that wanted to teach. It doesn't need to be developers. That can be attorneys that happen to know Microsoft Excel. You know who doesn't know Excel? Other attorneys. And so like you could make a great video course on that, but everything that I talked about in the videos was like, well, open your text editor and Git and the command line. And if somebody watches that, they're gonna be like, this is not for me. And so after I realized that, I was like, holy crap, I got to redo every single video. I've got to reshoot everything. And I turned that around in a week. It was many, many, many nights straight of 2 to 4 to 5 a.m. just recording. So I would work all day, go play with the kids, put them down for bed, come back and work until 3 or 4 in the morning. And I turned that around in 5 or 6 days. At that point, it was easy. I did know exactly what I was going to say in each video. And I just had to change, 6 phrases in every single video. And it came out it came out being a lot better, and it came out being something I was proud of, and I was ready to tell people, yeah, you should buy this.
That's interesting because the positioning towards developers helps in some sense for your marketing because you can have a position, an angle, there's a niche, people know it's for them. Whereas if you go broad, potential market bigger, you can help more people, but harder to market. Did you feel that at all?
Oh, big time. And even the homepage, like the still image still has like an IDE on there. And that is somewhat calculated because my initial audience, the people that know me, follow me, and like me, they're developers. All of them are developers. And so, in the beginning, some of the marketing, some of the visual marketing is still like, that's a little bit geared towards developers. But the hope is over time, I start to be able to broaden my reach outside of, our friendly little community into more of the creator, the economy, or if that's still a thing, but like into more of these people who just generally need to produce videos. So at some point, that still image on the homepage is going to change, but I don't want right now all of the friendlies to go there and be like, oh, this is not for me. And so I'm trying to have it both ways, and the videos are much, much harder to like, obviously to change. And so I went with making those more broad, but still speaking to developers, but also peppering in 3 or 4 other examples so that other people can ignore the developer examples and take the content creator examples.
And where in this process timeline did the domain come about? We can't not talk about it. It's beautiful, Aaron. Screencasting.com. It's the perfect domain for a screencasting course, but it did not come cheap. So where did it come in your decision-making process? How much did you spend on it, and why did you make that decision?
Finding that domain was the thing that pushed me over the edge, frankly, of doing it. So I released this course for Planet Scale in February of 2023. And I think my GoDaddy history tells me that I bought this domain in April of 2023. And then I launched the course like in, I think, September or October, something like that. And, as we all do, I'm looking around at domains and I'm like, betterdeveloperscreencasts.com. It's like, boy, screencasts for devs, like how to screencast.io. It's like, these suck.
It's brutal.
Like, these are terrible. And, so I'm just kind of tooling around one day and I go look at GoDaddy's like premium buy it now. So like not the auctions, not the like inquire within. It's like, these are fully listed and you can just, pay for them. And I type in screencast, and screencasting.com pops up as a premium buy it now. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is perfect. And I saw the list price and I did a quick little mental math and thought, this is worth it. So I pulled it up and it was like $5,000, which is a lot more than, $14.99. The most I've ever paid by, let's see, that would be 2 orders of magnitude. So 100 times more than I've ever paid for a domain. But I was like, I don't understand how I could pass this up. It gives it an unbelievable amount of gravitas. And my, like, part of what I'm going for is I want to reach outside of my friends on Twitter. And this, I think, above all other things, this allows me to do that.
What was your mental math to decide on that number? Because you're saying it's worth it, but that's also a huge gamble with something you haven't launched yet. You haven't even started. You're about to re-record anyway because your positioning's changing. It seems a bit of a risk.
Yeah. Don't be shy. A bit of a risk. Yeah, for sure. One, it's an asset. I could turn around and sell it, even if I sell it, if I sell the domain for half because nobody else needs it as much as I need it, it's not zero. So that's not great, but it's not nothing. The other thing is I bought that with business money. So I'm not walking in to tell my wife like, hey, by the way, like I had done another course for Laracasts.com and they just paid me outright for it. And so inside the, Aaron Francis Side Project LLC, there's money sitting around. And so like, I'm not going negative to buy it. That's for dang sure. And then I did a little bit of calculations and I thought, I'm not going to sell this course for $39. Like I sell to college students for $39 and that makes sense. But I'm going to sell this course for $300. And if absolute worst case scenario, well, maybe middle case scenario is I sell enough courses to cover the domain and kind of sucks. I made $0, but I have this long-term durable asset that I could continue to grow. And, for the record, I made more than the domain cost. And so it paid off. The gamble paid off, but I just really didn't think it was that much of a risk for those reasons.
So you talked about price, and I guess now might be a good time to ask why you chose that price or how you decided on it, because when everyone's launching a course, it can be intangible what price you set it up, what value are they getting. When I launched my podcast course, I said in it, if you sell sponsorships at the price I say to do it, you'll cover your cost and cover the cost of the course and more. So how are you deciding on that price around $300, which is the mid tier for it?
I will be honest. It's a little bit of a guess, I think, as all pricing decisions are. I looked at a lot of other courses that I thought were of comparable quality. I don't know if Jack Ellis has been on here, but you all know Jack Ellis, and he's got a course. He's got two courses actually, serverless Laravel and a single store course. And they were expensive. I think one was like $499 and the other was maybe $200 or $300. And I bought one of them and was super happy with, the value that I got out of it. And so, I looked around at other courses and that kind of set me up directionally. But then my market for this is basically, it's prosumers. I mean, it's people that want to take this thing that I'm teaching them and turn around and better their professional lives because of it. And that helps me a lot, because if I reach developers that want to grow their following, they're going to take that seriously, and they're going to look at that and say frankly, I've watched Aaron grow his following by producing content. Now I want to do the same thing. And I've seen people level up their career by putting themselves out there with good content, and I want to do the same thing. And it's $300 for that seems like a good trade-off. And so that was just kind of my mentality. If it were a hard tech course, and it were if I were to sell the MySQL for Developers course, I may even sell that for more. But this kind of lands in the prosumer aspirational category.
Yeah, that makes sense. JR, I forgot to ask you, what's the most you spent on a domain?
65,000.
Oh my.
Yeah.
What was it?
So after I did my Mojo run for a decade, I resigned, right? That we were public, 4,000 employees, $1.5 billion revenue type stuff, right? And I was just kind of done. And then I got into retention, SaaS retention and churn and all that, which is kind of different. But anyway, yeah, I went on this thing where so it was Weave. It was called Weave. It was a 4-letter domain, WEAV, so just weave.com.
WEAV.
I still own it.
4 letters. Whew. You still own it?
Still own it, yep. But it's sitting in the graveyard right now, and I don't know what I'll do with it. But one day I'm going to bring that puppy out, and we're going to do some damage with it. But I don't know. It's gonna take a while. So,
I got one idea. I got one idea that's probably worth $100,000, and that would be just sell it.
Yeah, exactly. I should.
That's crazy.
What
a
crazy.
Great domain.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so speaking of what is your ultimate plan with this? Was this just to kind of get out there? Are you hungry for more? Do you want to grow it into something bigger? I have tons of ideas that I want to share with you that I would do. But
I'll tell you my thoughts, and I want to hear all of your ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think twofold. One is to get the big influx of cash, frankly. I mean, with 2 kids and 2 on the way, gotta have a minivan. And so which we have now. So yeah, I think that was the first thing is I felt like I had something good to say, and I felt partially I want to produce this and get this out there. I think one of the great benefits of this content is that it's extremely evergreen. It is not a course on Laravel 10, and Laravel 11 is going to come out next year. Like, I love Laracasts and I love Jeffrey Way. I don't want to be on that content treadmill if I can avoid it. And here I've avoided it. Like screencasting. You know, my accounting course I haven't touched in 10 years because you know what never changes? Academia. Financial accounting, it doesn't change. And so that's a good, like, that was definitely a decision factor up front. I've got a full-time job, a family. I can't be re-recording a course every 6 months. Provided that it's evergreen, I think I now have a marketing challenge in front of me. So I have exhausted or almost tapped my personal and Twitter network, and I'm very careful about like not overdoing it because I don't want to turn into course guy. I want to continue to be helpful, like realistic, down to earth Twitter guy. And so I'm cautious about that. So going forward, I have a few like content strategies that I'm going to try to execute on to keep people coming back and to keep having an excuse to email them something of value that's not just, hey, you haven't bought yet, please buy. So the first like content vein that I'm trying to mine, that's what I'm always thinking about is like, where's a rich vein of content that I can go back to and mine it over and over and over. One is screencaster spotlights. And so I have told you throughout the whole course about my setup, my lights, my camera, and I've tried to offer you a broad perspective about what else is out there. But I am but one man, right? And so screencaster spotlights is a way to have other screencasters in whatever community, which I think is important, do a showcase of their setup, of their lights, their camera, their office, the software that they like. And then we'll put all of that on a single page and be like, hey, here is the spotlight of Jeffrey Way from Laracast. Come learn and see how he does it. And I think that's a good one that it can just be forever. I can just keep finding people to do that. And then the second one is there's a lot of great content on how to set up, for example, a Canon M50 with a Sigma 16 millimeter lens. There's a lot of great content on that. What I have found is that people who make content on how to set that camera up also cover how to use it for lifestyle vlogging and how to take beautiful pictures with it and how to go out into the world and record videos with your DSLR and how to use a handheld tripod with it. And the content that I think is lacking is here's how you set up a DSLR as a webcam. Here's the specific cables that you need. Here's the battery that plugs into the wall. Here are the settings that you need to turn on to get clean HDMI out. If you sit all day on Zoom, here is what you need to know to get this camera looking great. And I could just do 10, of those. I could do that with all kinds of gear, honestly. So that's the long-term like marketing road that I need to hoe to try to get this out to the broader community as I slowly morph into this is for everyone, not just my friends.
So more of a curation kind of thing. Is that what you're thinking?
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yeah, curation, weight, like heaviness for Google to see like, oh, there's ungated content here. And then some of that translates nicely also to YouTube, which can serve as a top of funnel over there. So I can put these gear guides on YouTube and then drive them back to like, oh, you're setting up a camera, just a DSLR for a webcam? Are you screencasting? Well, boy, do I have good news for you. That sort of thing.
What about, so one of the things that comes to my mind is, like you said, there's a lot of content to be created, underneath this name. So and you're such a good educator. So this is agnostic in the sense that it's a screencasting for any sort of, niche, which is cool. But do you think that you'll like have a section in here that's called screencasts and you can filter by category? So you could show all of the, or maybe it's by finance and then developers and design, and you have all these different screencasts that maybe you sell, or you create your own, right? Like Screencasting just announced its new course and it's all about personal finance, or it's all about accounting, or it's all about, and then you start to create content underneath Screencast as Aaron Francis. So you're more than just, like here's Screencasting, here's everything about it, but then also here's all this content that we've put together. Have you thought about that at all? Like the content side of it that way?
Yeah. So becoming a, a learning platform. Yeah. I have thought about that. And I think that is that's the home run vision for sure. Yeah. Like singles and doubles is continuing to sell the course.
Mhm.
I think the home run vision is become a learning platform, maybe commission courses from other
Yeah.
people, or do the platform play and say like, hey, you can sell on screencasting.com/ Adobe Premiere if you're doing a Premiere course or whatever, something like that, and partnering with other people. I have thought about that, and I think that plus some sort of community for screencasting professionals is the bigger vision that I'm frankly
Yeah.
still trying to wrap my arms around. Like, wow, that is a big vision. That's like
Mhm.
that's almost lynda.com,
It
but
is.
like scaled down. And that's a big vision. So yeah, I'm trying to mentally assent to that.
Yeah. Step by step. I get it. I mean, you could do another like iteration towards that could be, and maybe these are bad terms, but even like add-ons. Like I noticed in your FAQ, it was like you teach this whole course in ScreenFlow, and this is not a ScreenFlow tutorial, but if you want to learn about it, here's an add-on for like a full in-depth tutorial on how to use ScreenFlow.
Yeah.
Right. So like, or here's all this stuff. If you really want to get your setup to the next level, here's a whole course on just that. That's an add-on to the screencasting course. Anyway, just like that could be.
No, that's an easy one. That's a good
Those are
idea because
easier.
that's
Yeah.
that's an easy one where I can say like I can turn around, right now and do a ScreenFlow deep dive tutorial, because a lot of my focus in the course was like, I don't want this to be a ScreenFlow deep dive.
Exactly.
Like I want to teach you philosophically how to edit, and you can apply these rules to your editor. But boy, I know ScreenFlow. I know a lot about ScreenFlow, and so I could do that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also a nice way. It's a more targeted way, as a saying like I'll teach you how to screencast. It's like I'm gonna teach you how to use ScreenFlow, and come use it. If you get this, you also get access to screencasting's course as well, right? Like it's another wedge to bring people in that maybe is a little bit more clear and concise of that consumer looking for it. So.
Yeah, I really, really like that, because at some point one would have to assume that I pick up one of these bigger editors as well, and that that is going to be great content. Frankly,
Exactly.
like, going from ScreenFlow to Premiere or Resolve or whatever it is. Man, when I'm learning that, the notepad is going to be out, and I'm going to be taking down notes of like how to use Premiere as a screencaster, not as like a Hollywood movie guy, as a screencaster. And that could be another add-on. Yeah, I like that as a middle step between like I am a platform and where I'm at now. I think that's probably, that just moved up on my list of priorities.
And because they're two separate problems, like that, former, like the platform, that is a whole, that is a lot of things to think about to get there. So
yeah, he says with his tired platformer's voice, that is a lot to think about.
That is a lot. It is a lot. Yeah. And I also, I'm a big proponent early on of, when I did Mojo, this was, again, like my story is more the WordPress era back in the day before it was WordPress. And so, but what was nice is there was an audience that I could capture. I'm big on that versus building an audience. I've done this before, but where I think, you have this kind of, you're trying to go get an audience that's into screencasting, but capturing an audience that uses ScreenFlow or Premiere or, you know what I mean? It's a little bit easier to maybe acquire those people. So that's why I like that.
Big time. Yeah, I like that. I'm glad I came on. That's a good one. That's that makes me feel like that doesn't give me the oh no, I have to like do a big thing feeling. You get somebody gives you a great idea and you're like, oh no, I have to do the big thing. This gives me the ooh, I could do that. I could do that for sure. That gives me the excitement feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Aaron, you're great, man. Like you're like I think fun. I think it's great. I'm excited for you. I think one of the big things that's, I would say that's maybe a good lesson for even me is just like the balance you seem to have. It's really easy to get caught up in your ideas and excited and projects and the domain I bought and, just all these things. And so I think it's great that you kind of like stop yourself and check. So yeah, this has been great.
Yeah, thanks. This has been a delight to be here. Long time listener, first time caller. So this has been fun.
I want to ask one final question, which is how you avoid burnout with all of the stuff going on in your life, full-time job, course, making content especially can lead to those burnout times. So how are you avoiding that?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts on this that have been some of them hard won. I think the first is I have really had to train myself to remember like what is my job, what is my responsibility, and what is not my responsibility. And this goes back to I gave a conference talk years ago that I poured my heart and soul into, and I showed up to give the talk, and the room was empty. Literally, the only people there that were staff, and it was devastating. And I realized, like, you know what? That's not my problem. My job is to try really hard to do good things and to put myself out there. That is my responsibility. And so I think I've had to train myself to remember that my job is to try my hardest and to publish what I'm working on, and not, as it relates to content, not get a lot of views or a lot of retweets or whatever. Like, I'm trying to pull the finish line back to release the thing, do the thing, release the thing, and you have finished the race. Well done. And then if it goes great, it goes great, and that's even better. Love it when a video pops off and everybody's like, "You're a genius." I'll take that. I'm not mad about that, right? And so I've had to pull that back. And so the way that helps me prevent burnout is I get the satisfaction of the artifact no matter what happens with the artifact. That helps me. That definitely helps me. The other thing that helps is success helps. I've stopped things that aren't working. Things that aren't working that I continue to like try to push the boulder up the hill and it continues to roll backwards and crush me. I've just stopped doing. I was working on a SaaS product for a long time that was not working, and it burned me out super hard. And I realized, like, there is something good to be said for lashing yourself to the mast and like working really hard. There's also something good to be said for following what the market is telling you. And what the market was telling me was, "Aaron, we like your videos. You should make more videos." It's like, oh, nobody freaking cares about my SaaS that I'm killing myself over, and it's burning me out. And when I make videos, people are like, "Yay, you made a video." And so success, like following the thing that is working, has been a huge help to me. And again, that goes back to just like cutting everything I can, because my life is so hectic that I just can't work on things that don't give me energy anymore. I just can't do it. And so those are the kind of things that I have grown to learn about burnout. Some have been learned by burning out, and that's kind of where I've landed these days.
Yeah, well, Aaron, I can't think of a better place to end, and hopefully people can take that advice to heart. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Lemon Squeezy. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Make Lemonade with Aaron Francis. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button on your podcast player of choice. And we always appreciate reviews. And if you want to make your own lemonade stand like Aaron has done, you can check out Lemon Squeezy. We'll put all links in the show notes. See you next week.
Okay, all right.